I've gotten enough asks over the years for more, beginner-friendly content. So hopefully we get to do that here with this collaboration.
Yeah, I think it'll be much easier for me coming in as a beginner. So like I know what questions beginners will have,
Right.
what they sort of want to know.
And what I think is super cool about this is that you're such a good gamer elsewhere that you'll be able to relate some ideas in terms that are more accessible to the average gamer, I think, than I would be able to. Hello, everyone. It's Lumen, starting off a new video series with a special guest. Sam, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm Sam from the No Wonders YouTube channel. Going very well. How are you going, Lumen?
Good, thanks. So, in this series, I'll be teaching Agricola strategy to Sam, starting with the basics and going step by step towards more advanced strategies. Our plan is for Sam to have an Agricola strategy guide video on his No Wonders channel, and our sessions in detail will be here. Now, as for our first session, so for complete clarity, Sam and I are now about 3 or 4 weeks into teaching Sam Agricola a couple hours a week. And this is our first session that I messed up the audio on. So we're just going to fast forward through what my screen looked like during our first session and give you all a recap.
I'm
So
kind of I'm kind of glad the audio is gone because I had no idea what was going on.
yeah, and now that we've talked together a few times, I'm sure our conversation flow is probably nicer too. So at the start of our session that first week, we had basically started from square one. All you really knew was the rules. You had played a couple rounds of some games on BGA, but not really understanding the flow of the game. Um,
Yep.
and the first things I asked you were what your initial strategy thoughts were. I have in these 3 notes here. And then I had some pictures of my real life farms uh, to try to give you an idea of what good final farms might look like.
So
So,
what score was this farm on the screen? Because that looks like a very nice farm.
yeah, I believe this one was 57 ish, something like that. Because the mantelpiece is 9 minus 3 there.
And you got Braggart as well.
Right, the braggart was 4 points only, I think. Only in air quotes, because 4 point last action's pretty good.
Yep.
All right, just holding down fast forward. Oh, there's something interesting. So yeah, here's your BGA page. Obviously, you're
Oh
quite an
yeah.
accomplished player over there. And for those of you watching on my channel, Sam's No Wonders channel, as he already said, has strategy guides for, I don't know, what percent of the ones we see here? 80%? 100%?
At this stage, I think I've covered all the games on screen.
Oh, wow, okay.
All those games, but yeah, the end goal is to make a guide for Agricola eventually.
Yeah, and really excited to have that. Most of my audience, as I've told you before, uh, I don't really aim towards a beginner audience, but I've gotten enough asks over the years for more, beginner friendly content. So hopefully we get to do that here with this collaboration.
Yeah, I think it'll be much easier for me coming in as a beginner. So like I know what questions beginners will have,
Right.
what they sort of want to know.
And what I think is super cool about this is that you're such a good gamer elsewhere that you'll be able to relate some ideas in terms that are more accessible to the average gamer, I think, than I would be able to. I might, slip into advanced gamer ideas a bit too often or what have you.
That is one thing that's hard about making the guides. Like if you've been playing a game for so long, it's sort of hard to like remember what like or what's common knowledge or what like because you already have such a deep understanding of the game. It's like a lot of things you just take for granted.
Right, right. All right, so I guess we can go over these 3 strategy points that you had at first. Um, You stated
Yes.
that you wanted to get a little of everything and specializing is not useful. And I think from the lens you were approaching that from, I think that's mostly correct. Um, Specializing, you were thinking of something along the lines of like, you're not going to try to get 8 vegetables when the point cap is for 4 vegetables.
Yeah, but now that I have a better understanding of the cards, you can definitely specialize to get other benefits.
Yes, depending on your cards, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, the second point that you had is that you wanted to get a third person quickly, which means getting a room early, and that is completely correct. Uh, I don't know where you got that insight from, but it's super good.
Yeah, it's just having more actions is always good.
Right? Fair enough. And that's,
Action advantage, yeah.
yep, action advantage is a theme in many games and definitely in Agricola. And then avoiding begging, your third point. So had food income, which isn't necessarily the food stacks. I don't know if that's like my edit. I don't remember if I edited that.
I think you did help a little bit.
Okay. But yes, we certainly want to avoid begging at almost all costs and have a system in place to either be eating animals or bread.
Yes. Or milk jug.
My fellow streamer Rainier is gonna love that. He's a huge milk jug stan, even has it as one of his Twitch emotes.
I was reading something on Board Game Geek and he mentioned milk jug. I
Yeah,
forget when.
yeah.
It is a very good card though.
Alright, this fast forwarding is a little slower than I'd like, so we're just gonna skip ahead and see what's there. Just me showing you different farms, I think. And like card focused games versus house focused games versus farming focused games.
Hang on, go back. That was your profile pic.
Yeah.
What card is that?
Sorry. Oh, the constable.
Oh, of course, because you're the constable of the board.
Yeah, exactly. So
I get
constable
it
is
now.
actually so this is the original edition constable, which I use as my avatar on Discord and other places. But um, the revised edition has a constable also. It got reprinted.
And what does it do?
So in the revised edition, it gives you wood at the same pattern as House Steward.
Okay, yeah.
And it says at the end of the game, any player who has no negative points of any kind receives 3 bonus points. So mantelpiece disqualifies you, an
Ooh.
empty space disqualifies you, beggars disqualify you, missing grain would disqualify you, etc.
And yeah, empty farm space.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a nice incentive to truly filling out your score sheet as an end game condition. In the
What score was
original,
that game?
sorry,
What score was that game?
this one was a 61.
Wow.
There's hidden card points on literally all of these minor improvements, so that boosted my score quite a bit. And in the original edition, Constable was 5 bonus instead of the revised edition 3. So
Wow.
Constable had some dislikers from original because, if you play it, you're really affecting what the final endgame condition is. But revised edition putting it at 3 points, I think, is a better balance because it's a
Yeah, it's much
reward,
more reasonable.
but less of a mandatory thing to fight for, if you will.
Yeah.
More farms. There we have me typing, do the grain and the animals. Yeah, and a couple of points on that. For baking, we want to own an oven and minimize the number of actions we spend only baking.
Yes, because baking's an inefficient action, but if you have cards to help you bake, that's always good.
Exactly. Yes, if you have cards to give you extra bake actions, that'll be great. Or if you can bake a ton of grain at once in multiple ovens or a cooking hearth throughout the game, that's also doable.
Yeah, so that's something I also would never have considered, like getting both ovens, but I see it quite a lot.
Right. Yeah. I think I mentioned to you before that getting both ovens is almost the only way to run a good baking game if you don't have helper actions.
Yeah.
Then in terms of using animals for food, we obviously want to own a fireplace or a cooking hearth, which are the basically only good ways to reliably turn animals into food.
Yep.
And also having capacity to store those animals so they can be breeding is key to getting good food. And we can't sacrifice the wood we would be using for a room, at least the first room, because that's
Yeah.
still more important than getting animals breeding.
Unless you're going for like a 2-room strat.
Right. You'd have to have a lot of good card benefits to do otherwise. And that's a thing about Agricola, is that we can suggest a lot of rules and heuristics and recommended strategies, but in the end, if you have cards that seem to do a much better thing, you should just do that much better thing instead.
Yes.
So here's an important note, I think. In a 4-player game, growing your family is the most contested action space. And that is not necessarily true at the other player counts. So if people watching are trying Agricola for the first time at, for example, 2-player or 3-player, the most tense part of the game won't actually be growing your family. In a 2-player game, it'll be clay and food denial. In 3-player games, it might be read or food. But in a 4-player game, you really need to be contesting the family growth.
That's so interesting to me that 2-player is a lot about clay. It's because
Yeah,
there's only one clay spot on the board, right?
right, and it only accumulates one around.
It's just funny how it goes from like the most useless resource in 4-player to like one of the most sought after in 2-player.
Yep, absolutely. And it's simply because the amount entering the game every round on the accumulation spaces is different by player count.
Yeah.
And that's the same for family growth, too. In 2-player and 3-player, there's still the one family growth around, but when you get up to 4 people contesting it, it gets pretty ugly sometimes. Ugly in a good way, I should say. Very tense.
Ugly in a fun way.
Yeah.
Fun when you have to start player 3 times in a row.
Yeah. Alright, what am I doing here?
Oh, I think you tried to queue for a game, but no one showed up.
Alright.
And then they did show up later, but you forgot about it.
Right. Then we looked at my stream game from that morning, and at this point we were talking about draft strategy, I think, and what to look for in the beginning of drafts. I might have said something about get cards that give you wood, food, or bonus points.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much of reviewing my draft from that game was helpful for you that day.
It was probably a bit overwhelming, especially with all these cards I still don't recognize.
Right, because this is with the 500 something total cards available. So we reviewed.
I've noticed you like furniture a lot.
Yes, I do. Well, just like it gives you a few wood, which is part of the conditions of a generically good occupation, and then it gives you some sneaky improvement actions, which are possibly major improvements. So
Yeah, it seems very strong.
yeah, it's certainly abusable. So I do prefer to take the abusable cards when I can, because even if I don't get it myself, someone else won't get it.
Yeah.
We've spent quite a while looking over.
I really like that card that this is going to be like weird on the timeline, but the purple player from your game the other day with little person.
Oh, yeah, Little Peasant. That's actually in my...
Yeah, little peasant.
Yeah. It's definitely a unique strategy, but the top level players, including me, are going to probably have it banned. It ends up being too strong, and not too fun to play against.
Right, because like you said, it's like a coin flip at the end
Yep.
with urgent growth,
Right.
urgent wish.
And then after we looked over my game and I guess a generic overview, gave up on getting a game, and what I think we did is just look at 10 cards.
Oh yeah, that's right, and do a draft. Yeah.
Yeah, pretending we were going to start a 4-player game. Yeah, so we spent maybe the rest of the time here, maybe about 30 or 40 minutes, talking about the 20 cards in front of us here.
Okay, childless, easy first pick.
Right. um, as you'll all see in the episodes to come, Sam had a heavy dose of childless in your first 10 games.
Oh, I love it. I remember at this point, I was like, when you first showed me the card, I was like, yeah, that's a terrible card because it's like you don't actually want to grow. And why would you want a card that makes you not want to grow? But then you explain the benefits and it's wonderful.
Right. And you, I think, now understand that it's kind of only powerful because it allows you to get out of that, like, that very contested fight for family growth.
Yeah, but
if there
even
was-
even then, you can
Sure.
get it set up in the third or fourth round and just get free food and grain,
Right.
or food and vegetables.
Alright, so, zooming in on a bunch of cards, talking about how good they are. Yeah, so while there was probably some good insight in the original audio of this video that I lost, it is quite a bit of time spent on not the biggest amount of content.
Lumen, I'm shocked you didn't make me pick Wall Builder.
Shocked? Yeah, bad teacher. Yeah.
I've yet to see that card actually being played in one of my games yet.
Right.
I think
it's bad. It's quite bad. Yeah, the only
Geologist though, Geologist I see quite a bit.
Yes. Geologist in a 4-player game, so many people think that the clay is going to be good, and then it's just one of the most losingest cards. I don't know if you ever track, like, by the end of the game, oh, that person played Geologist. They didn't win. What a surprise. But that's the pattern I notice. So.
Yes. That's not something I track, but I imagine it would be the case.
Yeah, so that's what we covered in our first session here. Anything you want to call out from that day?
Not from memory. My memory of it's kind of blurred because I've
Fair.
won it so much since then.